Failed presidential candidate Rick Santorum recently dropped by to visit another failed presidential candidate, Pat Robertson, and they decided to get into a discussion about the message of the GOP. Take it away, Rick.
You talk about, your message, and I know your message is about, work and responsibility and the importance of family as an economic unit. We as conservatives have to start focusing on where the problems are in America, where the opportunities are for us to connect with voters who haven't been voting with us. And, the Republican Party, as you mentioned at the outset, maybe at one time was the party of big corporations and of the country club set and white-collar workers. But if you look at surveys today, they're no longer Republicans. I mean, we're barely 50-50 with Democrats with respect to those types of voters. Actually, where we're doing well is with middle-income voters and with even lower middle-income voters who are out there working, who know that the president's policies and the destruction of the culture that the left is doing, the destruction of the family, they understand that redistribution of wealth is a loser, that pretty soon you run out of other people's money, and that disincentivizing work and marriage is what the left's welfare programs do, is not a winner for them.
Middle and low-income voters are with us. That's basically what he starts out with, except for the 63% of voters with a family income under $30,000 that voted for President Obama in 2012. And as did 57% of those with incomes between $30,000 and $49,999. Oops. What the fuck? What do you guys think? What do you think of their outlook?
My first point is briefly on the conversation they had as a whole. I have to say, look at the two figures there, Rick Santorum and Pat Robertson, and neither of them mentioned religion in that entire soundbite. What is this?
They did mention marriage. He did say marriage. He did throw marriage in there, which is kind of a...
Yeah. Stephen, you're compromising with the conservatives by trying to make marriage a religious issue. God damn it.
Stephen, what do you think? How's our outreach going?
I mean, he's saying, oh, we're managing to... Well, first of all, his point was, oh, we used to do really well with all the rich donors, and now, the Democrats are catching up. They're being just as corrupt and kind of conniving with the mega donors as we are now, and that's a real pain for us, because that's how we used to win elections. And then he's saying, but now we're doing really well with them middle-income voters. And of course, to them, middle-income voters are people earning, over $100,000. That's what they class as middle income. Well, certainly that's what Rick Santorum and people like Mitt Romney class as middle income. I mean, they're doing all right for themselves. I mean, they're not rich like me, but they're okay. They're middle on $100,000. It's just mental. And Rick Santorum, he's on a current publicity tour, promoting his book, kind of, it's like Blue Collared Worker or something like that. Because he was such a blue collared worker. Bollocks. He's been privileged pretty much his entire life, and him saying, oh, I can relate to the average man. You don't relate to the average man at all. I mean, you're trying to reach and, gain some support, whether he runs in 2016. He might do, but he's not going to do very well, I'll tell you that now. But he's trying to get some voters now, and of course, who's he going to appeal to? Pat Robinson's audience, kind of 70-year-old plus white males who just love the Bible and hate women and hate gays. It's just, I mean, these two just share their own little special bromance, and it's nice they've got their own little platform to do it, but Rick Santorum's fading into obscurity just as Pat Robertson is.
Mm-hmm. And I love what he said, we used to be the party of big corporations. No, you're still the party of big corporations, even more so than you were before. That's pretty much what the GOP is, nothing more than big corporations, and they're trying, of course, to try to brand them. They've always, we're for the middle class, we're for the poor, except that we're going to take everything away from you that will help you to not be poor, so that you stay poor, and we're going to funnel that over. Remember, he said redistribution of wealth doesn't work, right? Because eventually people run out of money. That's sort of what happened to the lower class, to the poor. Like, the poor don't have any money anymore. The middle class has been squeezed to about nothing. They're running out of money, and guess where all that money's gone? It's gone right to the top. Congratulations, Rick Santorum. You just made your fucking point, but you made our point about income inequality.
Yeah, I mean, with them, I mean, they're saying, okay, we're kind of losing the mega wealthy donors now, and we don't necessarily have to care about the poor. There's a safety net there to catch them, as Mitt Romney said. So they're saying, we're here for the middle class. If you asked Rick Santorum, name me one Republican policy that helps the average American family that has a household income of about $60,000. That's still probably slightly above middle class, but just go with that number. He can name you one that helps just that type of family. He can name you one that might include helping them, but would also help, people over $1 million. They don't have any policies that specifically target kind of middle-class working families. They don't have any policies. They're just intellectually bankrupt at the moment.
Because and to be fair too, the only policies that would they've voted against policies like the middle class tax cut that will help middle class families. So they don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to that. We're for the middle class, except when we block your tax cut, because you need to work harder, lazy bums.
Right. I got to play devil's advocate on this one for a brief point, not at all for their entirety of their argument. Their argument is flawed, but for one caveat, the part where they say that the Democrats are becoming increasingly the party of big money, and they are right about that. And for the obvious fact that corporations, as far as CEOs are for the most part pretty damn stupid, but board of directors and executives aren't quite as oblivious. They're very savvy to changing in ideological, cultural, and social climates, and they see the writing on the wall. Like, conservatives are slowly but surely losing the battle as far as the culture war goes.
Mm-hmm.
So what do they have to do? It's time to start latching on to the quote-unquote progressive party and trying to get their money in that. So they're absolutely right about that part, that the Democrats are becoming increasingly bought as well. And maybe in like 50 years we'll see a Republican Party that is trying to actually pander to the low working classes instead of relying exclusively on big money, because by that point it wouldn't surprise me if actually both parties do another flip like they did back in the early 20th century, where the Democrats will become the much more conservative faction, the Republicans will have to become the progressives again. Maybe in 50 freaking years, but certainly not right now.
Well, I'll argue against you actually saying that you're being the devil's advocate. I think you're absolutely 100% correct when it comes to saying that the Democrats are definitely influenced more by big money than they're not as corrupt and as bought off as the Republicans are, but they're like at 90%. I mean, they serve the wealthy donors, but there are Democrats out there, like Elizabeth Warren, for example, that are out there that are looking after the middle class, and they are actually looking after the poor, and they're not huddling up with big corporations because, and I know we've had this discussion before, that in a system where it's pay to play, in order to get reelected, you have to suck up to the larger donors, and of course the wealthy are more than happy to say, oh, we'll give you the money, but now you got to help us out now that we helped you out. And it's not quite as quid pro quo as I put it, but in our system of where you can basically give unlimited money from super PACs and stuff like that to candidates and to political campaigns, that's the kind of system that you invite. And so you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I mean, I love Elizabeth Warren. I would love for her to run for president in 2016. Being a Canadian, I think she's fantastic. I think she even has some policies that we up here could definitely learn, because we're inching, especially with our conservative government, we're inching a little more to your political American conservative values than I'd like. But I definitely think, I mean, I don't know if this is even in dispute or if this is even a thing. I definitely think Elizabeth Warren is getting some kind of money. The difference is I don't think she's being basically bought off to say, spew corporate bullshit. I think the money might just be basically protection so that you don't instantly lose your seat in the next election, basically to keep her there so she can do whatever the hell she wants. But given the fact that it's a pay-to-play system, I don't see how she could, maybe she is just staying in there on the merits of her own cause. If that's the case, fantastic. I'm so happy. But I'm a little too cynical to think that way.
And that's a fair point. We definitely don't suffer from too much optimism here.
Yeah, I agree with Nick there as well. That as an English person, I'd still like for Elizabeth Warren to run again. Some of her policies would do wonders here in the UK. But the final point I'd like to make is that with the YouTube video, and that's put up, underneath you've got the picture of Rick Santorum, you've got the picture of Pat Robertson. Underneath it has blue-collar conservatives. Rick Santorum, who's currently on $1 million book deal traveling the country, and Pat Robertson, who owns diamond mines in Africa. You couldn't get further from blue-collared conservatives even if you tried. Well, maybe you could, but...
I love how Rick Santorum and conservatives love to throw out that liberals' main goal is to destroy the family unit and give everybody money, other people's money, and destroy the family and encourage basically encourage people, inner city women, to go on welfare and stuff like that. That's fucking crazy. There is no policy out there, no liberal policy out there that aims to do that. Okay? And the whole charge of him saying that we're against families, no, we're not fucking against families. We're actually for families. When two people get together, two incomes, it actually helps, right? And that makes sense. But it makes absolutely no sense when he makes the charge of we want to destroy families. No, we want more families. We want, if you were so in favor of families, Rick Santorum, why don't you allow gay people to get married and adopt? Boom, you've got families right there that are better able to take care of their kids, that are better able to take care of each other. And also, along with that, why don't you support contraception? If you can support contraception and family planning, you create more families that are better off, that don't have to go on these assistance programs because they get pregnant at a bad age, or they don't know enough about contraception and they get knocked up and have to go on these social programs that you so deride. The solutions are so obvious right in front of his fucking face, and he does not see it. He does not understand it, and he derides the very things that would actually help these people. And so, I just got to say, Rick Santorum's a fucking idiot.
I don't understand the mindset of anyone who actually listens to him either. What do they think progressives are? I'm an atheist. Do they think I wait in the abortion clinic for them to take out the deceased fetus and then I cook it up and eat it or something? I have no idea how they possibly think progressives want to destroy the family, or that anyone could possibly take that argument seriously. Maybe it's because I'm Canadian. We don't really have that kind of crap up here in any major degree like it exists in the States. But I can't even fathom the notion that any major party would say that the other wants to destroy families.
It's not because you're Canadian. It's simply because you're not American.
I'm so sorry, Jeff.
I'm the lone American on the panel, and I just got to go out and defend my fellow countrymen to say that not all of us are fucking insane. We talk about it all the time, that people like Rick Santorum and Pat Robertson, they are the cutoff minority. Most Americans do not feel that way, but unfortunately I think we have so much apathy here in America for politics and anything politically related, especially now, and of course that's a really good tactic to get people to not get involved with politics. When you fucking politicize everything, make it a political issue, you scare the fuck out of everybody, and they don't still want to hear it, right? We have this sort of apathy mindset here in America. I don't want to hear about politics. I don't care. It's too divisive. I don't want to talk about it. My family is, of course, very guilty of doing that, by the way. So I know that from firsthand experience, right? So you don't get a lot of people involved. And so people like this, people like Rick Santorum and Pat Robertson can come out and claim, and Ted Cruz even can come out and claim that the majority of Americans are with us on this issue, when most Americans, when polled, they hold somewhat more progressive values on a lot of different issues and don't agree, but because of the vitriolic nature of politics, and because of apathy, and because of branding, really good messaging by the GOP, many Americans consider themselves to be quote-unquote conservative when they're not actually conservative at all. But Republicans look at that and say, winning.